Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Haunted Hearsay. Thank you so much to everybody that joined us on Saturday. I mean, I know 41 minutes was a bit of an ask considering it was Facebook, but I hope you enjoyed it. I'm very glad that you tuned in. We're back again today. I can promise you that won't be this long from now on. We're going to share a couple of ghost stories twice a week. Anything else that we've heard that's sort of haunted hearsay, we're going to share that with you. But we're going to try and keep it down to about, 15, 20 minutes max if we can. Today we have a story about looking for the Black Witch. Now, this is more really Ben and Anthony's story. They're the ones that came looking for her. I had my opinions on it. And this is actually, with the recording we're going to play today is actually several years old. And like everyone else today, I'm hearing it for the first time too. But it is an interesting story, and so we're going to go to that. It's about the Black Witch. But before we go, I have a very quick haunted story. And when I was younger, we moved from Glasgow to Donegal, and we lived in Kincastle first, then Annigra, or Mulladuff, sorry, and then we moved to Dunlow. And I was 10 when we moved to Dunlow. And one of the places in Dunlow that we used to play a lot at was the Parochial Hall. All the kids would gather around and you'd play tigs or whatever around the hall. And I remember on one occasion, I think we'd probably broken into the hall. And when I say broken in, it doesn't sound as, it sounds worse than it actually was. I think we probably climbed a window to get in out of the rain or something like that. But we knew we shouldn't have been in and out of there playing. So, I mean, if you seen somebody, you would have been running off. But I can remember running round the back, and I'm pretty sure it was tigs we were playing and running around the back of the hall. And as I was running past a part at the back of the hall, I glimpsed a man in a suit at a window. And I was like, oh my God, we're caught, there's somebody in. And I went running past, and they were like, who? And I said, there's somebody at the window up there in the hall. And they went, what window, Caroline? And we came round, and there was no window. And they were like, you're seeing things. And I thought, well, geez, I must be. And I'm looking, and I think I could have swore I saw a window there as I was running past it. And on closer inspection, there was a window there at one time, but it had been bricked up. But you would hardly notice it until you pulled back the brambles and you seen at the bottom where it had been bricked up. And now that really unnerved me. I was only 11, I was very young, and I didn't actually understand what I'd seen. But I found it, and then I thought, oh, maybe I am seeing things. But at the same time, I was so sure that I'd seen it. Then it was a few days later at school that we found out that a girl in the town, her uncle, had committed suicide in that hall, in that particular part. And on hindsight, I realised I thought I saw somebody going over and back the window. Um, and now I'm not going to mention names. It was back, I think, in the late 40s, early 50s that this happened. And I thought I couldn't have possibly seen him. I couldn't have. But I mean, then I did see something, and it turns out somebody had died there. Now there was a chalet that used to stand over from the front of the hall. There was the back of the chalet faced what would have been now the front of the hall. The chalet's gone now, actually. And there was a woman I knew that was staying in there. She used to babysit for us, actually. Her and her husband, her kids were only young at the time, and they rented it for a while. And one night, her washing line was at the back of the house facing the hall. And it was a winter's night, the hall's in darkness, nobody's about. And she went out to take her washing in, and she seen a face at the window in the hall. And she comes in, and she didn't believe in any of this. Doesn't believe or didn't believe in ghosts or paranormal or anything like that. Come in, she's obviously mentioned it to her husband. And he says, "Oh, it must be somebody over in the hall, maybe locking up or doing something." And she's like, "But the place is in darkness. There's nobody about, and it's pitch dark. Why would we go around the hall in darkness?" Anyway, they dismissed it as being it must have been somebody in the hall. And I couldn't dismiss it as being somebody in the hall because where I thought I seen it was bricked up. But I mean, when I went past, I had a quick glimpse of a window, but that's not what was there. But it turned out then she mentioned it to someone else, and it turned out she's not the only person in Dunlow that's seen somebody over at the hall whenever there should have been nobody there. Now, I obviously with COVID we can't go and talk to people and get their stories on it. But if there's anybody watching that's ever had an encounter with a spook, a ghost, a spirit of whatever, something, seen something they couldn't explain at the Parochial Hall in Dunlow, I'd love you to comment and tell us if you have seen something or if you know of somebody seen something, just for some validation. You know, obviously it's not something we can prove now unless we went and done a ghost hunt, but that's not our thing. I don't have the nerve for that. I leave that up to other people. I don't mind talking about it, but that's not our thing. Have you ever had an encounter yourself?
Me, yeah, well, plenty. Uh, and I again must get Anthony on to talk about this because he was there, um, on Rutland Island. And
Mm.
it's very, very haunted. We have a small cottage, that's been in the family for over 40 years, and the cottages were originally built in the 1780s. So there's all manner of stuff goes on there, but we never really, as a family, when we go and visit, we don't really have too much activity. But one time I was there with my friends, and I'd brought it was winter time, I remember, because we were all staying in the same bedroom. And one of the bedrooms has a fireplace that we'd bring the embers upstairs, and we'd like keep the room warm using the fire. Um, and it was bedtime. We were all in bed, lights off, pitch dark, and there's a shelf we have that has lots of bottles that we've dug up out of the garden. You know, the
Mm.
really old bottles that you just find them in the sand and the dirt out the back. And over the last decades, there's decades worth of bottles there basically, as you're coming up the stairs. And they're on sort of like a wide windowsill. It's very wide. And I'd say there's probably 50 of them, all different sizes. And we were all asleep, and we hear a bottle flying off the shelf and
Oh,
bouncing off the stairs. But not only did we hear that, but we heard it move again. The same bottle that had fallen, we could
so it
hear
wasn't a fluke
again.
or something, not when it's moving a
No,
second time.
and we weren't getting out of bed for this. This was like everyone heard it. We all were like, we hadn't quite gone to sleep yet, but it was dark. We had the lights off, and we the next morning, I decided I was the first up. I got out of bed. I went down. I found the bottle at the bottom of the stairs, and it dawned on me that it didn't matter how powerful a draft there was, that bottle was not being blown off that shelf by the
By
wind.
itself.
And I even did a little test, and I put the bottle back on the shelf and blew the bottle with my full breath, like trying to
Yeah,
blow it off the shelf, and I couldn't even blow it off the shelf. So,
that was somebody trying to get your attention, definitely. Or like,
trying
you're
to,
not alone.
yeah.
I'm here too.
We will go to the house together, and we'll do a haunted hearsay from the house.
Definitely. That's definitely, yeah, we're definitely going to do that.
Spring when the weather gets a bit better, probably. But
Well, I do actually have somebody else lined up to talk to who knows quite a bit about the ghost stories on Rutland Island.
yeah,
And I'm not going to mention his name yet. We'll go and speak to him first as soon as COVID allows us to go and speak to people and visit people again. But yes, I've been told that he's some great stories on Rutland Island. And there was one or two I think I've mentioned to you that you even you hadn't heard of, you didn't know about before.
absolutely. I've been going
But
there 30 years
yeah.
more.
Before we go to the Black Witch, I have another one actually. I lived down for a time when Jamie was a baby in before I moved into my own house here in Bunbeg, down the bottom of Burma Road. That was the name of the road. And at that time it was a new house. I was in the basement of the house and a lovely big apartment in the basement. And Jamie's only about 3. And I think it was one of those nights that when Deanie comes into bed beside me, so he's fallen asleep beside me in the bed. I'm sitting doing a crossword. And I'm sitting doing a crossword, and the next thing the bulb starts going really bright, and then really dull, and then really bright, and and I've just stopped and I'm looking at this lamp beside me. And then I heard this crackling, and I'm watching this happening. I cross my heart, hand to God, this is the honest to God's truth. I'm watching this happening. I remember looking at it and I thought, oh, the bulb must be going to go. But I heard this crackling, and I actually watched the bulb push up out of the actual lamp. You know, the way it was one of those push-in bulbs, push up out of the actual lamp and up and over the actual lampshade. It didn't just fall, you know, the way you would expect it just to fall over. No, up and over the lampshade and smash to bits on the carpet. Now, I never sleep in the dark. I'm a bit of a scaredy cat, so I've always got a hallway light on, always got a hallway light on. And I remember I'm still sitting with my crossword book, my pen, and I'm just staring at it. And I'm staring at the broken, you know, the broken bulb on the floor. I couldn't believe it. Absolutely couldn't believe it. But I didn't want to acknowledge it either. I thought, what? And then it's about 10 minutes before I could move, and I got up and I put on the big light and I lifted the glass. And the bottom of the bulb, the glass was melted into the bottom of the bulb. Now, I actually kept that for about 4 or 5 years, showing people, look at, this is the bottom of the bulb. I promise you, I'm not lying. I did speak to somebody that I knew from over Crawley direction, a guy called Brian, and I says, you know, is there anyone you know that could come down to the house and check it? Now, we were down beside the sea and there was a river runs down behind the house. So there's obviously something linked spirits to running water. You know, we know that there's a connection. And I said, this is also the house that I was in that sitting watching television. My sister Roseanne was sitting with me, and the next thing the TV turned over. The two of us looked at each other, and I went over and I turned the TV back, and she turned around. She says, "Oh, the tube must be going in your television." And I burst out laughing. I says, "Roseanne, these televisions don't have a tube in them. Not these new ones. They don't have a tube in them." And so that happened with her sitting there. But it happened to me several times where I was sitting watching TV and the TV switched channels or switched off.
Yeah, we
But
had the
because I
same.
had Jamie with me, you know that kind of way when you're protective of your child, I couldn't afford to start going, oh my God Almighty, what's going on here? I just thought, and then having certain psychic awareness and abilities myself, I thought I'm just not going to address this. But again, this all happened and this all led up to when the bulb. So it was like things were increasing and the bulb was the ultimate thing for me, as it were. And I remember speaking to Brian, and he got advice from a person he knows who was a medium. And this is the best thing you can do if you don't want to acknowledge it, is to say very loud, "Go away, leave me alone. I don't want to deal with you," which I did. But the thing is, I still used to have lights. When I'd be standing in the kitchen, I had a touch lamp in my kitchen, and that used to go on and off on a regular basis afterwards, even though I told it to go away, it used to go on and off. Now, I mean, when I moved from that house, I never told the landlord and landlady. I didn't want to give anyone the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah,
But
sure.
yeah, that one scared the fact that I had my sister there for one of the occasions, the TV turning its chain, but it was the bulb coming out of the lamp, and that put the heebie-jeebies up me, I can tell you.
Well, in our
So
house on the island, we don't really have much activity when my family are there. It only seemed to be when I brought other people into the equation, and but our neighbors or friends from the other side of the island, I was over in their house watching a movie, and the same thing with the TV happened, and the channels were turning forward and they were going backwards, and basically in both directions. And we thought, oh, maybe the remote control has one of the buttons pushed in, but then if it's going backwards and forwards, that can't be the case.
yeah.
And we also took the batteries out of the remote control. And this night wasn't a rough night. The weather wasn't bad. Like you'd notice maybe a flicker in the lights if there was an electricity problem. And just to kind of add to for anyone internationally, your story about the lamp, our plug sockets have a fuse on them. So your plug would the fuse would go before your lamp would explode. You know,
Yes.
we don't, our electricity, it isn't like in Europe or the US where it's just two prongs. We have a three-prong plug for that exact reason. So it
Yeah,
makes
it's a safety feature, so it should actually just, blow the power to the lamp as opposed to
exactly, it just burns.
blowing the bulb.
And we've all seen that happen before, and
Yeah.
like with fuses going and stuff. It's not as dramatic.
No, it's
Yeah.
not, but definitely what I seen put, made the hairs in the back of my neck stand up.
Mm.
And my reaction was literally just to sit and stare at it. And I didn't want to waken Jamie, and I couldn't react in any other. I just stared at it, and then I got up and I cleaned it, and I sat back. I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night, I can tell you that. But I personally don't know if it was the house or the lamp,
Yes, okay.
because I brought that lamp with me here. And it was one Dawn Marie bought in London, and I'm pretty sure she bought it at a jumble sale or something like that. It was a beautiful lamp,
Mm.
and I brought it here, and the lights went on and off a few times, and then I thought, no, it could be the lamp. I'm taking no chances. So
Got
that
rid
lamp got sent away. It actually got sent back to a charity shop. So
of.
some
Oops.
poor person may have got it and has been haunted by this lamp now.
You should have cleansed it or something.
Possible, you don't know. But right, we're going to go to searching for the Black Witch. It actually sounds much more ominous than it is.
Yes.
But it is a person that lived here. Well, listen to the interview, listen to the story that we're telling, and see what you think.